Hey, welcome in 12:50 a.m. The Fan, Steve Sparky Fifer, along with our guy Nathan Marzion. Where he always is, in his bedroom. I think that's his bedroom. Is that your bedroom? I've always assumed that it is your bedroom. I never really asked, I guess.
It actually is not. It is my older brother's room, but he's not here anymore, so I just use it for
Oh,
this basically.
for podcasting.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh, very nice. I always assumed it was your room. Nice blue little pinstripe on the ceiling, the whole deal. The Fear the Deer banner behind you. I figured that was
I
just yours. And
I did put this up, but
the Fear the
he
Deer.
yeah, it wasn't in here before. I
Yeah, I
gotta get
like it. It
some.
looks good.
I gotta get some other stuff in here. I gotta get like a Bucks thing right over there, and we'll get it a little bit more decorated so that when I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
these things,
yeah.
there's something in the background.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I have a blank wall behind me. Why? Because I am in Iowa, like I had mentioned earlier in the week, using some newfangled equipment. So I think there's going to be some echo because I'm in a conference room at this hotel in where are we? Marion, Iowa, Cedar Rapids, Iowa, one of those cities. It's from doing it, and this is where I'll be probably through today, then tomorrow, and then next week I'll be broadcasting from future mother-in-law's house. So we'll see how that goes. All right, Nathan Marzian. As we record this Thursday night at 7:30 Central Time, we are getting ready for free agency to begin on Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time, and no time like the present than to make our predictions as far as how this is all going to go. Lots of people tending to think that Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton can be had by other teams, namely other teams' fan bases think they have a shot to get a Brook Lopez or a Chris Middleton. And in fact, there's some talk that if Harden doesn't go to Houston, maybe the Rockets will really overpay to persuade Brook Lopez to leave Milwaukee to come to Houston. With that being said, let's do free agency predictions as far as where each player goes and how much each player will get. I think we all know your Chris Middleton prediction, but we'll still do it. Chris Middleton, we'll start there, Nathan Marzian. And you can follow Nathan on Twitter at Nathan Marzian.
Yeah, so I am predicting Chris Middleton signs a 4-year, $130 million deal. And I think the salary will go up, over time. I think the first year it'll be around 29, maybe 30 million. And then in the last year, the fourth year, it'll probably be closer to 35, 36 million. But that should save them, that'll save them about 10 million this year compared to if he just accepted his player option, which is good. Helps him sign Brook Lopez, who I think signs for about I'm gonna go 3 years, 19 million a year. So that's 57 million. I think he stays here. That's how much we give him. And that leaves about 7 million that you can use to re-sign Jay Crowder, who I think that according to reports they want to keep Jay Crowder, and I do think they keep him. Just given that they gave up 5 second-round picks, I think they want to try to keep him around at least for one more year, give it another shot. If it still doesn't work, okay, but I think they at least want to try to keep him around, and not just completely kick him to the curb after giving up so much for him. So I think they re-signed Jay Crowder to about 7 million. That's a bird rights re-signing, and then they basically have two minimum slots that they can use after that on whoever. I'd have to assume Thanasis stays. Does Thanasis stay? I mean, nobody's really talked too much about it, but I just think that that's kind of a little bit of a given that Thanasis takes a minimum. Um, and then I mean, this also could go a couple ways. It could be you give Jay Crowder 7, and then you're signing Thanasis. You have two minimum slots, or you could give Jay Crowder 5, and you have three minimum slots. I don't know what Jay Crowder is asking for. I'm assuming that he's not asking for 5. I, I don't know, or that he wants more than 5, but there is a realistic path for them to give Jay Crowder 5, and then you can get Thanasis on the min, keep him around, keep Giannis happy, and you still have two more slots to either re-sign any minimum guy from our roster last year. Uh, could be Ingles, Wesley Matthews, Myers Leonard, whatever, or get an outside free agent for a minimum. So those two minimum slots there, I don't really care that much about. I mean, whoever you get there, I'd probably prefer it maybe be Wes. I think Wes still has a little bit left in the tank. I think he can defend. I think he's playable in the playoff series. So I'd want probably him. Ingles is kind of, for a min, I don't hate it, but I wouldn't mind also if they went and got someone different. Maybe a more of a big just for depth. And then They also have the tax pyramid level then doing all that. That keeps them under 182.5, which is the second apron, giving them that tax pyramid level worth $5 million, which I think they use on some outside free agent because I don't know. When I was looking at this, I'm like, they could use that to then give to Javon Carter if they really don't want to use it on someone else. But I don't know if they want to run the whole entire thing back like that compared to, okay, we'll keep one of Javon/Jay. In this case, I think it's going to be Jay. That's my prediction just based on what we've heard and everything. And then we use the TPMLE elsewhere, that $5 million. I do think they'll go elsewhere. But I mean, I could see them going, hey, we'll just keep both of those guys and use the tax pyramid level on one of them. But a few ways they can go. But ultimately, yeah, I think they re-sign Chris, re-sign Brooke. The bird rights re-signing goes to Jay Crowder, keep Thanasis, and then probably keep Thanasis. And then they have those 2 minimum slots and a TPMLE that I think they use on an outside guy. And I do think, yeah, like I said, Wesley Matthews will be one of those minimums, and that'll be it.
You broke up a little bit during your explanation about Brooke Lopez. How much money did you say Brooke Lopez was going to get?
3 for 57.
So just short of $20 million a year.
Yeah, 19.
Yeah, I think at this point, if it's me, I think Marzion has sources. I don't know who his source is, but he's got somebody on this Middleton deal. He's been hammering the same numbers on Middleton for months. So somebody's talking to Marzion over there, but that's fine. So I'm going to go with Marzion on Middleton because he seems very confident. He hasn't moved off his numbers the entire time. So we'll go with Marzion on Middleton. The Brooke Lopez thing is intriguing to me because as we talked about in the last Greening Your Own podcast, which you can download on your Odyssey app or wherever you download your favorite podcast app, is the fact that if somebody comes at him with huge money, like say the Rockets, if they don't get James Harden and that $60 million now has to go somewhere and they're going to spend it by all indications, then maybe they do overspend for Brooke Lopez. Maybe they come at Brooke Lopez and say, hey, we'll give you 2 at 60. I mean, is he going to turn down 2 at 60 for 3 at 57? I can't imagine he does. I think he's got to go take 2 at 60 would be my guess. Now, I don't know. There was a thing on social media somewhere. My 16-year-old said that Brooke Lopez said he would like to play for Seattle. That would be his new destination. He liked to play for. Obviously, Brooke Lopez joking around like always. But for me, I think it's around $20 million a year. So I'm with Marzion on whatever that number is. I don't have specific numbers like the insider, but I'll say 3 at 60, somewhere in that area would make sense. And I read the same thing you read about Jay Crowder probably coming back as well. Is that really because he deserves to be back? Or is that because we're trying to save face on the trade you made to get Jay Crowder, giving up 100 second-round draft picks, and now we're trying to save face and not have this blow up in your face after postseason, which you didn't play him, which, of course, he blames on Bud. And as I've talked about in the past, he looked old to me. I wouldn't have played him either. So do you think this is more about saving face after you made a trade for a guy that wasn't effective and now we're trying to make him effective?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I do think that's definitely a huge factor in it. I think if they hadn't given up,
I may have lost him.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're just breaking up a little bit, but keep going.
All right, so
I can hear you. Yeah, keep going.
What I was saying was, I think that it's the saving face is definitely a pretty big factor. As I said before, I think that if they hadn't given up as much as they did to get him, I don't think they'd be as inclined to bring him back. But they did give up 5 second-round picks. They gave up several of those bench players that they had last year. Not good bench players, but they gave up several players to end up getting him. And I don't think they want to just punt on it after a couple months. And you could make the argument that new coach and having a full off season and having a full season and everything will get him in better shape and he could play better. But I mean, as you said, I didn't see anything that felt super promising about him last year. But hey, maybe it looks a little bit better this year. So I want to, for you, when I went through and I said, do you think they keep Thanasis?
Are we keeping Giannis?
Yeah.
Oh, then of course the Thanasis is staying. I mean, at this point, we
Okay,
know
well,
why he's on the team. Everybody in the league knows why he's on the team. He's on the team because of his brother. If his brother wasn't in the league, he wouldn't be in the league at this point. And I hope he realizes that. I mean, he's a great cheerleader. He's a good team guy. I feel like he understands why he's on the team and what his role is. I don't think he's dumb. So he gets it. So obviously that's going to be a roster spot for him to go be that hustle guy in games that are out of control or someone needs a rest.
yeah. So I think, Thanasis gets that last minimum spot, and then they, like I said, they would have then $5 million to give to Crowder if he can play for that. If this is all based on what I projected for Middleton and Lopez contract, what they'd have left and everything. You'd have about $5 million left to give either Javon or Jay, which I'm guessing is Jay, and then those two minimums that you can get. You give either to existing guys on the roster or from last year's roster, or give it to an outside guy. Where do you see them going with those? Do you see it being Wesley Matthews and Ingles? Do you see it being Wesley Matthews and Myers Leonard? Do you see it being neither of those two, or two outside guys, one outside guy?
What about if it's DiVincenzo? What if they go back down that path again and try and go get DiVincenzo to come back to Milwaukee?
DiVincenzo's not playing for $5 million or a min this year.
That's true. He's probably going to. What do you think he's going to make? 12 to 15?
Yeah, I think he's more of closer to a mid-level guy, 10 to 12.
Yeah, somewhere in that area. I probably agree with you on that. I don't know.
I was just gonna say I don't think he'd be super thrilled to like come back and play for the team that got rid of him. I don't know. I just wouldn't expect that to happen.
I wouldn't want him. I was just wondering what you thought about that. I don't want either one of those guys back. To being honest with you, Ingles or Wesley Matthews. Like I've said before, and I'll say again, I'd rather go the younger route. Find me a couple of younger players that have something to prove and are looking for prove-it type deals to prove that they're worth it. Cam Reddish is a guy I don't want. But Cam Reddish is a guy I'm seeing a lot of people on social media all excited and hoping their team gets Cam Reddish. I'm not quite sure what they've seen versus what I've seen. But again, that's a younger type player that you could bring in. Jackson Hayes is another guy who had all these hopes and dreams for when he got drafted in the first round. He hasn't worked out. He's going to hit free agency. He's not going to cost a lot. But again, that's a young big that maybe you can help to develop behind Brook Lopez a little bit different than, say, Myers Leonard, who's an older type player. So maybe that's a route you explore, going with a young center to develop going forward. And I know there are a lot of people that want to just get all the old guys, put together the retirement home and have them all play together on the floor like we did last year. I prefer not to go that way. I prefer to bring in a couple of younger players that you can continue to develop along with Marzion Beauchamp and along with a couple of your guys that you drafted this year that'll probably end up going between the G League and here. I understand, probably more than likely at the end of the day. But I want some development guys a little bit here. Giannis, Middleton, and Holiday are going to be your heavy lifters, right? We know that already. Now, between Grayson Allen, Pat Connaughton, and Bobby Portis, one of them probably is going to get traded. For what? I don't know. Nathan, do you know?
Do you think Bobby Portis is going to get traded?
I think one of them is going to get traded. I don't know which one, but I think one of them is going to get traded. For what?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Okay. You said one of those. I think one of them. Yeah. I don't know. I think overall, if you said one of those guys gets traded, I would say it's a 50-50 shot. I could see them bringing all of them back and just saying, let's run it back. But I also know that, by all the reports and everything, it sounds like they are looking at deals, looking to try to trade guys. And there are guys that you're like, okay, sources are saying that they were interested in this guy. The only way they could have gotten him is if they traded Bobby Portis. So you'd kind of know that it's in their minds, or think, according to these reports, it's in their minds, and it's something that they're considering is, trading Bobby Portis, trading Grayson Allen, et cetera, et cetera. If I had to guess one of the two, I would guess Grayson, just because I think they have more of a loyalty and with Bobby. And, again, I've wanted to trade Bobby. That's been my number one thing this offseason, has been I want them to try to trade him. But if I'm predicting, I would predict that Grayson gets traded before Bobby.
All right, let's move on to the second topic. Let's talk about Jrue Holiday, shall we? Because we did have those rumors about the Bucks and possibly Bradley Beal. I don't know necessarily what that deal would have looked like and who they would have had to give up. I would have thought Jrue Holiday might have been one of those guys that would have had to probably be a part of that deal in order to get Bradley Beal here, would have been my guess. I don't think they would have traded Middleton, so I'm guessing it would have been Holiday. Either way, didn't matter because he wanted to go to Phoenix and forced his way to be a member of the Phoenix Suns. But having said that, do we think Jrue Holiday is untouchable for the Bucks? Do we think John Horst is pretty much saying, I'm not trading Giannis, I'm not trading Middleton, and no, you cannot have Jrue Holiday either? Or Do you think for the right move, Drew Holiday might be able to be had at this point if it's a true difference maker type player?
Well, first off, I don't think anyone should be untouchable beside Giannis. Like it should be anyone for the right price you can get. Now, does that mean some guys are still extremely hard to get and you're still 98% hanging on to those guys? Yes. But I would not consider Drew untouchable. I think the fact that they were involved in the Beal stuff shows you that he's not untouchable. They're, again, I don't know if they're actively out there just trying to make any deal they can to get rid of Drew Holiday. Like, I don't think that's the case. But I think if there's some big names out there, I saw Darius Garland's name is in the trade rumors now. If that's, maybe that's a call they make and say, hey, we can give you Drew, um, give you a defensive minded guard next to Donovan Mitchell, and your defense would be fantastic with him instead of Garland. And then the Bucks get a younger guy back, a really good player in Garland, a better scorer. So I like that type of thing, yes, but I think it's very limited, and I just don't think the options are really out there that I would expect a Drew trade. I just don't think it's going to happen. But just because it doesn't happen doesn't mean they weren't, looking into it at all. I think they're of the mindset that, you know, if we can get a really, really good player out of this and someone that we think either keeps us the same and gets it right now and helps us later, or helps us right now, then they're going to try to do it. But again, the number of guys that just fit that, there's not that many that you can realistically trade for. They're not going to get Dame, I don't think. And so there's really not many players out there that you're like, okay, this makes sense. You can trade Drew for this guy, and the Bucks aren't getting significantly worse right now. Like the trade, just there's not many out there. So I don't expect them to trade him.
What if it's Jaylen Brown? What if it's Jaylen Brown?
They're not. The Celtics would not do that.
Because if you look at the Celtics right now, you have Tatum and Porzingis, obviously. And if you believe Porzingis can be an offensive player as a big, then you could argue that it could be Holiday, Tatum, and Porzingis kind of going forward. I know how everybody wants White to be that guy, next guy as point guard for the Boston Celtics, and they think that's what's going to happen, and it very well may be. I just feel like Boston wants another player, and I just am not convinced necessarily that Jaylen Brown necessarily wants to be in Boston at this point. And I think we need to see this as far as how this is going to play out with them. I had said before, Jaylen Brown and Damian Lillard makes a lot of sense to me as well. And you had pointed out that maybe wouldn't work for Portland as far as what Portland would want back. But at the end of the day, if Lillard says, I'm only going to this team, Portland's going to have to deal him to whatever team he says. And they may not get back, fair value if Lillard dictates like that and is a jerk about things. And he could. That's what Beal did to Washington. I understand you have better deals on the table somewhere else, but I want to go to Phoenix, and that's where you're going to trade me. And they did. Now, he had a no trade clause. I understand Lillard doesn't have that. But I think to do right by Lillard is something that the Portland front office wants to do because he's been there for so long, and I'm not going to say suffered like Beal did in Washington, but it hasn't gone necessarily the way they all wanted as far as, competing for a championship somewhat regularly. So Lillard might be able to force his way somewhere, maybe somewhere is Milwaukee to play with Giannis. We know there's been all that conversation. Obviously, we would all be giddy with joy if that were to happen. But yeah, I think it would have to be a Lillard, a Jaylen Brown, somebody like that in order to move Drew Holiday at this point.
Yeah, because again, I mean, Drew is not perfect at all. Drew has his struggles in the playoffs. He has his flaws offensively, and people want to focus on that. But like it's the same as what we were saying with Chris Middleton before. This is kind of like Chris Middleton in 2019-20, where you're like, yes, he has like he's inconsistent. He's not someone that's a superstar that is perfect and like this dream player for you. But he's still good. You don't just get rid of that guy just to get rid of him. Like he is a good player. He's a fantastic defender. He is a guy that will average around 20 points a game. And sure, his efficiency will go down in the playoffs. But again, he'll give you the defense. He'll give you the assists. He averages like 8 assists per game in the playoffs over the last few years. And it's like you have to kind of have some perspective of, okay, just because Drew has his struggles in the playoffs offensively doesn't just mean this guy sucks. We need to get rid of him immediately and just try to make any trade we can. No, you only make a trade If a team is out there that's willing to give you something that, again, as I said, either the Bucks look at it and say, okay, we're not losing much right now, but we're getting a lot younger, such as a Darius Garland. Like, I think they stay around the same level now. They get younger, and all of a sudden you've got someone that could be the next guy next to Giannis, or someone that helps you right now, such as a Lillard or something like that. But again, I don't see any of those happening. So that just to me says he's probably going to be here. I think Beal was like the one big potential opportunity to trade him if they could have gotten that done, or if Beal wanted to do that. That probably would have been the guy to do it. But after that fell through, it's kind of like, all right, Drew's probably going to be here, and that doesn't have to be this terrible thing. Again, he is a good player. We have to hope he can be a little bit better in the playoffs. We have to hope that the new coach can utilize him a little bit better offensively. But yeah, he's not. No, none of these guys should be. Even Chris, as much as I love Chris, there's no way you can say Chris is untouchable. I mean, again, if we can somehow trade Chris Middleton for, this wouldn't happen, but a Chris Middleton for a Jaylen Brown or Chris Middleton for someone like that, well, sure, like do it. I mean, you get younger and everything like that. But it's just when you look at what can realistically happen, they're basically untouchable because there's just not much that you can realistically do that
I feel I understand what you're saying. And if we're using just our brains and common sense, then yes, I agree. Middleton would not be untouchable. Middleton is like Thanasis to a certain point. As long as Giannis is on that team, they're not trading Chris Middleton because I think Giannis would lose his mind. So I really don't think Middleton, I don't think it's debatable at this point. Now, if Middleton says, dude, I'm leaving for this much money, I don't want to be back, then obviously there's nothing they can do and nothing Giannis can do, and he leaves on his own, fine. But if you trade Middleton for virtually about anybody at this point, probably Giannis is not going to be happy. I mean, he's just not. They've talked about how close both their families are and everything else. I think that'd be a big problem.
But don't you think that if they traded Middleton for, again, I mean, it's not going to happen, but if they somehow traded Middleton to get a Jaylen Brown, a Damian Lillard somehow, like something like that, some really good player or younger player, either one that's still very good, don't you think Giannis would understand that? He'd be like, and I know he wouldn't be like thrilled that Chris Middleton's gone, but he wouldn't look at that and be like, you guys are failing me. It's like, okay, I get it. They're trying to make the team better. They're trying to get a little bit younger. They're whatever. And they asked him about it at the end of the season, or maybe it was towards the end of the season, where he was like, yeah, Chris is going to do what Chris has got to do. And, if he leaves, or if, the organization does what they have to do, like that, it's a little bit out of his control. And it's like, that's, I kind of trust what they are doing, and he's always been like that. He just kind of trusts what the organization does. And again, I think I never would want to trade Chris. And again, I don't think they will, but I'm just saying, if you got to a point where you made a trade like that, or even in a year or two where Chris is getting even a little bit older and even closer to the end of his career, and they're like, okay, we either can ride him out for the last year or year and a half or whatever, or try to just trade him right now to get a decent value back for him, and they traded him, I think Giannis might just, like, I think he'd understand that. I think he'd be like, all right, he was going to be gone in a year anyways. They're trying to get some value back for him. I get it. Doesn't mean you have to be happy about it, but you can at least understand. I think Giannis would understand it.
All right, let's move on to the last topic here as we wrap up. Again, if you're just tuning in on the Odyssey Sports channels, we live stream this. I'm in Iowa in a conference room in a hotel where we're staying for a baseball tournament. Nathan Marzion is in his brother's room. We found out today. This whole time since last year when we started this podcast, I thought it was his own room, but it's apparently not. So that is how we are broadcasting today. A little different than normally. I'm in the studio for 12:50 a.m. the fan studio, but not for these next couple of podcasts. Okay, Nathan Marzion. James Harden opts into his contract. I think people were stunned by that. They thought he would leave in free agency. That's not happening. Now, the Clippers, the Knicks, a couple of the teams that have been mentioned as far as having interest in James Harden. Something that has been pointed out, whoever trades for him cannot give him an extension. So essentially, he's going there to play this year, and that's it. So if the Knicks trade for him, they get him for 1 year, and there's nothing else they can do about it. Now, if they want to negotiate a new deal, going into free agency next year, that's fine, but they cannot give him an extension when they get him. The Clippers get him. They cannot give him an extension when they get him. Ty Windish, our buddy Ty Windish, Eurostep podcast, does a great job. Him and Rohan Kadi tweeted out mockingly. I think definitely don't think he was serious. A deal that in the trade machine it works. James Harden to the Bucks for Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen, and it works. It works financially. It's a done deal. It all works. As I stated before with Lillard, if he demands to go somewhere, they're going to send him wherever he wants to go. And I think to a degree, James Harden is probably the same deal because James Harden can simply say, I could have just left in free agency. Y'all would have got nothing for me. So you're going to get something more now than you would have gotten before had I just walked away. So I'm giving you the opportunity to get something, whether it's picks, players, whatever, Philadelphia, but I want to go here. Nathan Marzion, even though I'm pretty sure Ty Windish was completely joking on Twitter today with this proposal going forward, if that deal was real, would you do it?
No, I am not getting James Harden on my basketball team.
Bobby Portis, Pat Connaughton, and Grayson Allen. We said one of those three were gone. Now I can get rid of all three of them for James Harden, and you're saying nope?
No, I don't want James Harden on my team, man. If James Harden was on the Bucks, I would feel like they got worse because I just don't. Number one, I don't trust him at all in the playoffs. Number two, I don't trust
Holiday. Think about this.
I don't. Hey, James Harden is not a fourth option. Okay, he cannot be a fourth option. So that's why I'm like, no, Agreed. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. He'd be taking the ball out of Giannis's hands too much. He'd be taking the ball out of Chris's hands too much. I mean, you can take the ball out of Drew's hands a little bit. I don't care. But no, I don't want James Harden on my team. And yeah, if he came, I just would feel like this is a recipe, something like that. Or people have talked about wanting to go get, not many people, but I've seen a couple people talk about we should try to trade Middleton for Kyrie. That is a recipe for Giannis leaving in 2 years. And Giannis, you get one of those guys, it blows up in your face, and it just all of a sudden Giannis is like, all right, yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna go elsewhere. No, you do not do that. That is like James Harden is not the type of player that you just, we can just throw James Harden in here. No, he is not that guy. So I am not doing that.
Got to interfere with Marzion's broadcast and cut him off, and he's chirping up a little bit here. Got to interfere and said, no, you will not bash James Harden on this podcast. He's back now. Marzion looks good now. Okay, Nathan, this is my deal, okay? Pat Connaughton, Grayson Allen, and Bobby Portis. I get rid of all three of those deals, and I get back one guy on a 1-year contract, and he's gone after 1 year. Again, you're not getting James Harden on a we have a chance to go win a ring. So it's Holiday, Harden, Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez. Nobody is beating that basketball team. Nobody is beating that basketball team. Y'all can hate James Harden all you want. Drew Holiday now can play off the ball. Harden can bring up the ball and run the offense. I don't ever have to see Giannis bring up the ball and run the offense ever again. Middleton is going to be wide open wherever Middleton wants to be to take shots. Brook Lopez, the same. I mean, James Harden does not play defense. Agreed. But you have the best shot blocker in the NBA in Brook Lopez back at the rim. You have another great shot blocker in Giannis that can help protect James Harden as well. Harden has never had two shot blockers on the floor with him at the same time, the quality of Brook Lopez and Giannis to cover for him when he decides to play Olay defense, which again is a majority of the time. As far as the locker room goes, he knows it's a 1-year deal. I mean, if I'm John Horst, I simply say, listen, we're going to try and win a second championship for Giannis. He gives us a better chance than the other three did combined to go win a championship. I'm in. Now, again, they're not going to make that deal, but I'm just saying, if there was a way to make a trade for James Harden without giving up Holiday, without giving up Middleton, without giving up Giannis, and without giving up Brook Lopez, knowing it's a 1-year rental, that's all it is, and then he's off to Houston or wherever he wants to go after that, one and done, yeah, I'm in. Yeah, count me in. Yeah, y'all can rip on me at Sparky Radio on Twitter all you want. For 1 year, to have those five on the floor, it would be the most talented five the Bucks have had since the 70s, probably. That would be my guess.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until he leaves in a year and you're left with zero bench and no cap space to sign anyone. And no cap space to sign anyone. And then it's Giannis, Chris, Drew, Brook, and your fifth guy is, I mean, probably Marzion Beauchamp at that point. I don't know. You have to hope Marzion pans out. But I, I mean, we know that this isn't going to happen. This is all just hypothetical talk and just like in the crazy world that this did happen.
Right.
But I just, I don't like James Harden, man. Again, if my team gets a guy like James Harden or Kyrie, I don't care what we gave up to get him. I feel like we got worse. I feel like we added just a big chaos, just chaos. We added chaos in the middle of our team, and all of a sudden you're just like, this could go south. This could be very bad. I don't know. Could the reward be great? Sure, but that's not a world I want to live in, and I just would rather be like, hey, I'll ride it out with my guys and see where that takes us, rather than risk, the catastrophic downfall of having someone like a Harden or Kyrie on your team.
I would say Nathan Marzion is in the majority on that take. Follow him on Twitter at Nathan Marzion. You can follow me at Sparky Radio. Get downloaded on your Odyssey app, or wherever you download your favorite podcast app. We will do this again coming up on Tuesday. And by Tuesday, I would assume we are off to the races with NBA free agency, and we will have all kinds of stuff to talk to by the time we record the next one. Actually, no, we could record on Monday. We could record on Monday. We're recording on Monday nights. I don't know why I said Tuesday. Yeah. So we record on Monday night, and by the time the weekend is done, I would assume we'll have a bunch of NBA news to talk about, so that should be a lot of fun. Nathan Marzion, as always, my friend, always fun and always interesting doing this broadcast the way we did it. We'll see how we go on Monday. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, hopefully the internet's a little bit better.
Hopefully the internet is a lot better. Yes, I would agree. There you go. Have a good one. Toodles.